The elevator to the penthouse of Park Industries didn't ascend. It launched. And with every floor that blurred past, Amara Johnson's resolve solidified. She adjusted the cuff of her Ankara print blazer, a vibrant slash of Lego's sun against Seoul's sterile steel. They expected a meek assistant, a quiet shadow for the untouchable king of Seoul. Amara was here to be a storm. The doors slid open into silence. Not peaceful silence. The charged, predatory quiet of a jungle before the strike. At the end of a cavernous room of glass and obsidian, a man stood with his back to her, gazing at the city he owned, Jaehyun Park. His reputation was a dossier of its own. Ruthless, brilliant, a monster who built empires from the ruins of his competitors. And the gossip sites whispered, ice in his veins. He turned. His gaze wasn't dismissive. It was analytical, stripping away the blazer, the resume, probing for weakness. Amara met it head-on. "Mr. Park," she said, her voice not an echo in the space but a firm statement. "I'm here for the executive assistant position." He didn't offer a seat. "Your file says you studied in London. Why come to Seoul? Why this tower?" His English was flawless. His tone a velvet-wrapped blade. "Because London was predictable," Amara replied, her posture unwavering. "And I read your last quarter report. Your expansion into West African tech is ambitious but culturally tone-deaf. You're losing millions in potential synergy. Someone needs to steer you correctly." A flicker in his dark eyes. Not anger. Interest. A tiger noticing a new, brightly plumed bird in its territory. "You presume to steer me. I presume to do the job you're hiring for. To be the bridge, not a decoration." A long, tense moment passed. Jaehyun finally moved, circling her like a satellite assessing a new planet. "You're hired," he said, the words a sudden, shocking verdict. "Prove you're not just bold words in pretty fabric." He stopped, his presence overwhelming. "The first rule, my world is not a game. Cross me, disappoint me, and you will not be fired. You will be erased." Before Amara could form a retort, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted from controlled intensity to something colder, more lethal. "Wait here," he commanded, already striding towards a private door. "And don't touch anything. The last person who did is no longer in this country." The door hissed shut, leaving Amara alone in the monster's lair, her heart pounding not with fear, but with the thrill of the hunt. She had stepped into the arena. But as her eyes caught the glint of a security monitor showing a frantic man being escorted from the building lobby by unsmiling guards, she wondered, had she just won a job or signed a deal with the devil himself? Week 1 at Park Industries was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Amara didn't just manage schedules. She navigated a minefield of corporate espionage, silent threats, and Jaehyun Park's impenetrable moods. He was a fortress, and she was determined to find a gate. Late one evening, long after the skyline had glittered to life, Amara brought in a contract for signature. Jaehyun was at his desk, the low light etching shadows of exhaustion onto his face. For a fleeting second, he looked less like a monster and more like a man carrying a universe on his shoulders. He signed without looking. "Order dinner. Something that isn't Korean. Surprise me." It was a tiny crack. Amara returned an hour later with a carefully packed bundle of jollof rice and suya from a tiny Nigerian pop-up across the city. The aromatic, spicy scents filled the sterile office. Jaehyun stared at the vibrant food, then at her. "What is this?" "A taste of home. My home." He took a hesitant bite, then another. A profound, almost painful silence followed. "My mother," he said, the words rough, "used to try and cook things from her home, before she was told it was unbecoming for a Park wife." He didn't elaborate, but the confession hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. In that moment, a thread of understanding spun between them, two souls navigating the gilded cages of expectation. The moment shattered as Kesha's frantic call blared through Amara's phone. "Era." That snake Min-jae from PR is leaking that you only got the job because you're sleeping with him. It's all over the internal chat. Amara's blood ran cold. This was the poison of this world. But before she could speak, Jae-hyun's voice cut through the panic, low and deadly. Put it on speaker. He took the phone. Kesha, send me every screenshot. Now. He ended the call, his eyes on Amara, not with pity, but with a terrifying calm. This is the world. They attack what they fear, and they fear what they don't understand. He stood, a king rising for war. You have two choices. You can leave and the rumor wins. Or you can stand beside me while I end his career before sunrise. He extended a hand, not in comfort but in pact. Choose. Amara, her pride scorched but unbroken, placed her hand in his. The touch was electric, a shock of solidarity. End it. A cruel, satisfied smile touched his lips. Good. But as he turned to his computer, a new email alert flashed. The subject line made his smile vanish. Urgent. Board motion for leadership review, regarding personal conduct. The attack wasn't just on her. It was on his throne. And they were now targets bound together. The boardroom attack was deflected with Jae-hyun's surgical precision and Amara's flawless presentation of their purely professional expansion strategy. But the cost was a new, more insidious enemy. Park Min-jae, publicly humiliated and seething with a cousin's bitter hatred. A fragile trust began to bloom in the aftermath. Jae-hyun started asking for her opinion, truly listening. He discovered her strategic mind was a mirror to his own. She discovered his monstrous decisions often protected thousands of employees' livelihoods. One evening, on the private rooftop garden, he pointed to a constellation. My mother taught me that one. Hyeosu the teacher. She was my only teacher in kindness. Amara, standing beside him under the vast Seoul sky, felt the walls around him thin. What happened to her? His jaw tightened. She was kindness in a world that saw it as a weakness. She didn't survive it. The raw grief in his voice was a side of him no one saw. Amara's hand found his. A silent communion in the dark. The moment was shattered by the crash of the rooftop access door. Min-jae staggered out, drunk and venomous, a heavy crystal ashtray in hand. Look at the mighty Jae-hyun, he slurred. Holding hands with the help. You disgrace our name. Leave, Min-jae. Jae-hyun's voice was quiet, lethally calm, stepping slightly in front of Amara. Or what? You'll have me thrown off. Do it. Min-jae lunged, not at Jae-hyun but at Amara, the ashtray aimed at her head. Time slowed. Jae-hyun moved to intercept, but Amara was faster. Years of Lego street smarts kicked in. She sidestepped, grabbed Min-jae's wrist, and used his momentum to twist him around, driving him hard against the safety rail in one fluid motion. The ashtray clattered to the ground. She leaned into his ear, her voice a fierce whisper. I am not the help. I am the woman who will watch you fall if you ever come near us again. Stunned silence. Min-jae gasped, defeated. Jae-hyun stared at Amara, not with surprise but with awe. A fierce, proud light ignited in his eyes. He pulled her away from Min-jae. His touch possessive, reverent. Call security, he told her. His eyes never leaving hers. Then meet me downstairs. We're leaving. Down in his private garage. He didn't open her car door. He caged her against it. His body humming with intensity. Who are you? He breathed, the question loaded with desire and shock. I told you, Amara said, her breath catching. I'm the storm. He was about to kiss her. The air was screaming with it when his phone rang. The caller ID, father. The ice flooded back into his veins. He answered, his voice hardening with each word. What? When? I'm on my way. He looked at Amara, the war in his eyes devastating. He's had a heart attack. And he's demanding to see me. And the woman causing scandals. The kingdom calls. The Park family estate was a fortress of tradition, all serene gardens and silent, judging servants. In a room that smelled of medicine and old money, Patriarch Park lay propped up in bed. His eyes like chips of flint, missing nothing. "So, you are the one," he said to Amara in Korean. His voice a dry rustle. Jae-hyun moved to translate, but Amara answered in fluent, formal Korean, learned during her strategic preparations. "I am Amara Johnson, sir. I work with your son." The old man's eyebrows rose slightly. Point scored, not given. "You work for my son," he corrected. "And now, because of you, the board questions his judgment, and my foolish nephew screams about disrespect. You are a liability wrapped in pretty cloth." Jae-hyun stepped forward, a protective wall. "She defended my company's interests and defended herself against a drunken fool. She is an asset." "Is she?" The patriarch's gaze swept over them, seeing the unspoken energy crackling in the space between them. "Love is the ultimate liability, Jae-hyuna. It is the crack in the armor." "Your mother," he trailed off, a rare pain in his eyes. "They will use her to break you. To break us." Amara felt the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down. This wasn't about competence. It was about bloodline, perception, control. She was a variable in their ancient equation. "Then let them try," Amara declared, her voice clear in the hushed room. Both men looked at her. "Sir, I did not come to Seoul to be a shadow. Came to build. With or without your blessing. But your son." She glanced at Jae-hyun, her truth undeniable. "He sees me. Not a tool, not a distraction. Partner. If that is a weakness to your enemies, then your enemies are fools." A long, suffocating silence followed. Then, a sound no one expected. A low, raspy chuckle from the patriarch. "Stubborn. Like him. Like her." He sighed, the fight leaving him. "A strategic alliance, then. Not a surrender. You will marry. Publicly, grandly. It will silence the rumors of scandal, frame her as a chosen consort, not a secret, and unite the narrative. A king needs a queen, not a mistress. Marriage." The word detonated in the room. It was a business proposal, a cold calculation. But the look Jae-hyun turned on Amara was blazing with a fervent, desperate hope. It was a trap and a triumph woven together. Before Amara could process, the patriarch added his final, shocking condition. "And the wedding will be in Lagos. Let the world see the strength we gain from this alliance." He closed his eyes, dismissing them. The game was set. But as they left the room, reeling, Jae-hyun's phone buzzed with an alert from his security chief. The message was stark. "Min-jae has vanished. Assets liquidated. He's not running scared, he's planning something. Threat level elevated." The chessboard had just been kicked over. Lagos welcomed them with a blast of humid air, vibrant chaos, and the sweet, spicy scent of home. For Amara, it was a triumphant return. For Jae-hyun, it was a dizzying immersion into her world, a world of loud laughter, bold colors, and a warmth that disarmed his soulite caution. The wedding was a spectacular fusion. Amara in a resplendent white iro and buba with intricate gold embroidery, Jae-hyun in a sleek agbada over tailored trousers. Under a canopy of vibrant oak, surrounded by Amara's beaming family and a handful of Park's stoic, impressed executives, they exchanged vows. His were in careful, heartfelt Yoruba, learned in secret. Hers were in Korean, a promise to stand in his shadow and his light. When the priest pronounced them married, Jae-hyun didn't just kiss her. He rested his forehead against hers, a private universe in the public storm, whispering, "My queen." Finally. The reception was a fever dream of music and joy. But on the periphery, Jae-hyun's security team was a tense, quiet wall. Kesha pulled Amara aside during a dance. "Era, it's beautiful, but, are you sure? This is forever tied to his world. The danger." "His world is my world now," Amara said, her eyes finding her husband across the crowd. He was watching her with a possession that thrilled rather than caged. "And we'll remake it. As fireworks painted the night sky over the Atlantic, Jae-hyun led Amara to a private balcony. He handed her a small, ancient box. Inside was a simple, elegant jade hairpin. "It was my mother's," he said, his voice thick. "She would have loved you. You have her courage, but you have your own fire. A fire that will not go out." He placed it in her hair, his touch a vow. "I am not a safe man, Amara. But I swear, every danger that comes for you will have to go through me." It was the most profound declaration he could make. She kissed him, pouring every ounce of her soul into it. They were no longer monster and challenger. They were king and queen, their union sealed. But as they returned to the revelry, Jae-hyun's head of security approached, his face grim. He whispered in Jae-hyun's ear. The warmth vanished from Jae-hyun's eyes, replaced by glacial fury. He pulled Amara close, his voice a bare murmur. "The threat. It's been activated. Min-jae hasn't just planned. He struck. At the heart of Park Industries in Seoul." He looked at her, the honeymoon over before it began. "We leave tonight. The war is here." Seoul was under a cyber siege. Min-jae, leveraging his inside knowledge, had launched a coordinated attack. Media leaks about financial irregularities, hacking attempts on their flagship R&D server, and a smear campaign painting Amara as a gold-digging spy. Back in the penthouse war room, Amara worked beside Jae-hyun, not as a wife but as a co-general. She saw the toll it took on him, the sleepless nights, the fear that his world was hurting her. One dawn, she found him staring at an old picture of his mother. "I won't let history repeat," he vowed, more to the ghost than to her. "It won't," Amara stated, taking the photo and placing it facing him on his desk. "Because you are not your father and I am not your mother. We fight together." That simple act anchored him. They traced the digital attacks to a shell company, and the financial leaks to a bribed board member. One by one, they neutralized the threats with legal and digital precision. But the final piece, Min-jae's location, was elusive. The pressure was a vice. During a tense press conference denying the allegations, a projectile, an egg, flew from the crowd aimed at Amara. Jae-hyun moved with inhuman speed, taking the hit on his shoulder, shielding her completely with his body. The image, the mighty Jae-hyun Park publicly protecting his wife, went viral, but for all the wrong reasons. It framed him as vulnerable, his weakness exposed. Enraged, Jae-hyun wanted to lock Amara away, to keep her safe in a gilded cage. That night, a fierce argument erupted. "I am not a treasure to be buried. I am your sword," Amara shouted, tears of frustration in her eyes. "Your way, hiding, controlling, is what lost your mother. Fight with me, not for me." Her words struck him like a physical blow. He crumbled, the monster facade gone, leaving just a terrified man in love. "I cannot lose you," he whispered, raw and broken. "You won't," she promised, holding his face. "Because we are smarter. We use their expectations against them." A plan formed in her eyes. A dangerous public gamble. She would become the bait, appearing vulnerable at a charity gala, while Jae-hyun's team tracked Min-jae's every move. He agreed, his trust in her complete, but the fear was a poison in his veins. As Amara prepared for the gala, donning a stunning gown and her mother-in-law's jade pin, Kesha called, her voice shaking. "Era. I did some digging. The shell company funding Min-jae. It's not just him. There's a bigger backer. The bank traces lead to someone inside the Park conglomerate itself. The enemy wasn't just at the gates. He was in the throne room." The charity gala was a snake pit in silk and diamonds. Amara moved through the crowd, a vision of serene elegance, playing the part of the slightly shaken, supportive wife. All eyes were on her, some pitying, most hungry for more scandal. From his command post in a van outside, Jae-hyun watched her every move on a monitor, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. He heard her laugh lightly at a rude comment, deflect a probing question with graceful wit. His heart swelled with a painful mix of fury and pride. She was the strongest person he'd ever known. The trap was set. Amara accidentally spilled wine on her dress and excused herself to the private lounge, a secluded room their intelligence suggested Min Jae would see as the perfect opportunity. Alone she waited, her heart a drum. The door opened. But it wasn't Min Jae. It was Park Sr.'s most trusted advisor, Elder Choi, a man present at their wedding. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. A bold play, Mrs. Park. But naive. Did you think the old patriarch would truly share power with a foreign daughter-in-law? He needed you to unite Jae-hyun, then, to be his tragic vulnerability. The truth was a cold knife. The patriarch. Was this his betrayal? Min Jae is a puppet, Choi sneered. The real move is a hostile takeover vote at tomorrow's emergency board meeting. With Jae-hyun distracted by your impending accident. As Choi advanced, Amara didn't scream. She touched the jade pin in her hair, activating the panic button embedded within. You mistake me, she said, her voice steady. I'm not the distraction. I'm the signal. The doors burst open. But it wasn't security. It was Jae-hyun, eyes blazing with a murderous rage. He didn't utter a word. He crossed the room and with a single brutal motion, disarmed and incapacitated Choi, who crumpled like a paper doll. He pulled Amara to him, his body trembling with adrenaline. Are you hurt? No. But the board meeting is already handled, a new voice said. Patriarch Park stood in the doorway, leaning on a cane, his face a mask of thunderous disapproval, directed at the unconscious Choi. Elder Choi has been overambitious for years. I am many things, daughter, but I am not a fool. My legacy is my son, and now his queen. He looked at them, a grudging respect in his gaze. Finish it. As they led Choi away, Jae-hyun held Amara close. The immediate threat was neutralized. But Min Jae was still out there, a loose cannon. And as they returned to the penthouse, a special delivery awaited. A single dead black rose, and a note in Min Jae's handwriting. You won the battle. But I have the ultimate prize. Check your secure server. A gift for the happy couple. With a sinking dread, Jae-hyun accessed the file. It was a single grainy ultrasound image. And a message. Congratulations on the heir. How fragile a new life can be. Amara's hand flew to her stomach. A secret she hadn't yet shared. Their world tilted on its axis. Pregnant. The word was a balm and a blessing. In the sterile safety of a fortified penthouse, joy and terror waged war. Jae-hyun's protectiveness morphed into something absolute, a desperation that bordered on paranoia. The world was no longer just after them. It was after their future. Amara, however, found a fierce, new calm. The life growing inside her was not a vulnerability, but a reason to be smarter, stronger. He wants us scared, reactive, she told Jae-hyun, who was pacing like a caged tiger. We will be calm. We will be a fortress. For her. Or, they already knew. Daughter. Jae-hyun stopped pacing, kneeling before Amara, placing his hands gently on her still flat stomach. His eyes, when he looked up, held tears. I will build a world of softness for her, he whispered, a sacred oath. A world my mother never had. Using the ultrasound as a digital fingerprint, Jae-hyun's cyber team launched a counteroffensive, tracing Min Jae to a port city. But he was always one step ahead, a ghost fueled by spite. The psychological warfare was relentless. Packages of baby clothes slashed, fake medical reports sent, threats disguised as well-wishes. The stress took its toll. At a crucial meeting to finalize the West African merger, Amara's brainchild, she felt a sharp pain. Rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was severe stress-induced complications. She needed complete bed rest. Jae-hyun's world narrowed to a hospital room. Seeing her pale against the sheets, the mighty king was brought to his knees. This ends now, he vowed, his voice hollow. He was prepared to burn down his entire empire, to trade it all for their safety. Amara grasped his hand with surprising strength. No, you don't burn it. You use it. You are Park Jae-hyun, the monster. Unleash him. Not for revenge. For our family. End this. So I can come home to you, and we can prepare for her in peace. Her words were his absolution and his command. The love in her eyes gave him permission to become the thing he feared, but with a clear purpose. He kissed her forehead, a promise sealed. Leaving his most trusted guards with her, he transformed. The worried husband was gone. In his place was the original monster. His eyes dark with a cold, focused fury. He had a location. A warehouse by the docks. He walked out of the hospital not as a man, but as a force of nature. His final call was to his father. Lock down every asset. Whatever happens tonight, the company goes to Amara and our child. He wasn't planning on coming back. He was going to end Min Jae, even if it ended him. The final battle had begun, and the queen had sent her king to war. The docks were a symphony of fog and shadow. Min Jae's hideout was a decrepit warehouse, a stark contrast to the glittering towers he coveted. Inside, surrounded by hired mercenaries, he waited, arrogant, believing he held all the cards. Jae-hyun entered alone, a single silhouette against the vast, dark space. His calm was more terrifying than any shout. You threatened my wife. You threatened my child, he stated, his voice echoing. There is no universe where you walk away from that. Min Jae laughed, a brittle sound. You're alone. Sentiment made you stupid, Hyung. She weakened you. You misunderstand, Jae-hyun said almost sadly. She didn't weaken me. She gave me a reason to be merciful. And a reason to be absolute. A flick of Jae-hyun's wrist. Not a signal for his own men. They were already in position, having infiltrated hours before. The lights exploded. In the strobe-like flashes of emergency beams, chaos erupted. It was not a brawl. It was a surgical takedown. Jae-hyun moved with lethal efficiency, a shadow dispatching Min Jae's guards, his focus solely on his cousin. Cornered, Min Jae pulled a knife. You won't kill me. You're not that man anymore. Jae-hyun disarmed him with a brutal twist, the knife clattering away. He held Min Jae by the throat against a steel pillar. You're right, Jae-hyun breathed, the monster fully present. The man I am now has a daughter on the way. Her first memory of her father will not be as a murderer. He leaned in closer, his voice a deadly whisper. But you will vanish. You will live in a concrete box with no name, no money, no past. You will have a long, long life to remember the exact moment you chose to target my family. That is my mercy. The fight left Min Jae. This fate was worse than death. As Jae-hyun's team took him away, the monster's mask slipped. Exhaustion and the aftermath of fury set in. He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking slightly, and called the hospital. The moment he heard Amara's voice, strong, clear, the last of the ice melted. It's done, he said, his voice ragged with emotion. He's gone. Forever. Come home, Jae-hyun, she whispered. We're waiting for you. He arrived at the hospital as dawn broke. He walked into her room, still smelling of salt and smoke. He looked at Amara, then at the ultrasound image now proudly displayed beside her bed. He said nothing. He simply laid his head on her lap, and for the first time in his adult life, Park Jae-hyun cried. Tears of relief, of love, of fear released. The war was over. But as they held each other in the quiet morning light, a new doctor entered for rounds, her face kind but serious. Mrs. Park, your latest blood work shows your levels are stabilizing, which is excellent. But given the high-risk nature, we strongly recommend complete rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. That means stepping back from all executive duties, effective immediately. She smiled apologetically at Jae-hyun. The board will need to be informed of the temporary leadership change. A new tension entered the room. The empire was secure, but the queen's throne was suddenly, medically, vacant. 9 months later, the penthouse was no longer a fortress of cold luxury. It was a sun-dappled nest, filled with the soft sounds of a lullaby and the scent of baby powder. Arya Johnson Park, with her father's intense eyes and her mother's defiant smile, had conquered Seoul without lifting a finger. Jae-hyun, once a monarch of boardrooms, was now a vassal to a tiny queen. He changed diapers with the same precision he used to dissect contracts, and his most treasured meetings were held with Arya asleep on his chest. Amara watched, her heart full. The monster was gone, replaced by a devoted father, his tenderness a sight more breathtaking than any display of power. Her stepping back had been a masterstroke in disguise. From home, she had advised Jae-hyun, who executed their shared vision with renewed purpose. The West African merger, now infused with her cultural insights launched by Jae-hyun in her name, was a historic success. The board, seeing the stability, the strength, and the potent symbol of the Park family legacy secured, voted unanimously to create a new co-CEO position, awaiting Amara's return. One evening, as they stood on the same rooftop where Min Jae had attacked, Arya cradled between them, a new challenge arrived, not as a threat but as a duty. Patriarch Park, his health failing, summoned them. In his study, he handed Jae-hyun a sealed envelope and a smaller box for Amara. The board votes on the new co-CEO title next week. It is a formality, but with greater power comes greater scrutiny. The world will watch every step Arya takes. They will dissect your marriage, your choices. The shadows never fully leave. Jae-hyun opened the envelope. It was the deed to a private, secure island, a gift and a sanctuary. Amara opened her box. Inside was the formal ancient seal of the Park family matriarch, traditionally held only by the first wife of the heir. It was heavier than any jewel. "The kingdom is yours," the patriarch said, his voice frail but firm. "Rule it together, with light and strength." Back on their rooftop, under the same stars, Jae-hyun wrapped his arms around Amara, who held a sleeping Arya. "Are you ready?" he asked. "For everything." Amara looked at the skyline, then at her daughter, then at the man who had learned to love in the light. "We're not just ready," she said. "We were made for this. A kingdom built not on fear but on family. A legacy she will inherit." They stood there, 3 hearts beating as one. The monster who found his heart, the queen who tamed a kingdom, and the heir who would one day rule it all. The story of fear was over. The story of their dynasty had just begun. But as the city lights twinkled below, a single unmarked black car pulled to a stop across the street from Park Industries. A man with a camera, its long lens aimed directly at the penthouse rooftop, watched the intimate family moment. He lowered the camera, a slow smile spreading across his face. He dialed a number. "The package is secured," he said. "The world loves a fairy tale, until they see the cracks. The first photos will break the internet tomorrow. The monster, the queen, and their precious heir. Their perfect kingdom is about to face its greatest test. And this time, it's not from within." Narrator: did you think the darkness was truly gone? A love this powerful, a kingdom this grand, will always have enemies lurking in the shadows. Who is this new threat? What photograph could shatter their hard-won peace? Will Jae-hyun's protectiveness become a cage again, or will Amara's wisdom guide them through this new storm? The next chapter of The Monster and the Queen is about to begin, and you cannot afford to miss a single moment of the drama, the passion, and the fight for their future. If your heart is pounding, if you need to know what happens next to Amara, Jae-hyun, and baby Arya, then you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell right now. Don't let the algorithm hide their story from you. Be the first to witness every twist, every tear, and every triumphant kiss. Subscribe and join the kingdom. The story is far from over.